Have you ever been part of a big change at work? A restructuring, a new software rollout, maybe a merger, and it just fizzled? It promised this huge transformation, but all it really delivered was confusion? Well, today we're going to dive into the science and the art behind making organizational change actually work.
All right, let's just kick things off with a pretty hard truth. According to research from AIHR, only 34% of change initiatives are actually considered successful. Think about that. That means 2/3 of the time, all that effort, all that money, it just falls short. That is a staggering failure rate.
So that begs the question, right? How do the most successful, most adaptable companies on the planet manage to beat those odds time and time again? I'll tell you this much, it's not just luck. They use a very specific, strategic discipline to guide how they evolve.
And that discipline is called organization development, or OD for short. You can think of it as the engine that powers effective, sustainable change. It goes way beyond just managing a transition. It's about fundamentally improving the entire organization itself.
Okay, so let's break this definition down because there are some really powerful ideas in here. First, OD isn't some one-off project. It's a strategic, long-term thing. Second, it's not based on guesswork. It's grounded in behavioral science, the actual study of how people act and interact. And finally, its whole goal is to make the entire organization healthier and way more effective.
And this is the crucial point. OD is proactive. It's not reactive. It's not about running around putting out fires after a change goes wrong. No, it's about designing a fire-resistant organization from the ground up, one that's just naturally more adaptable and resilient to whatever comes its way.
Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, isn't this just change management? It's a super common point of confusion. They sound similar, but they actually play two totally distinct but complementary roles. To clear this up, we're going to use this brilliant analogy from the experts at ProSci, the architect and the builder.
So let's break this down. Organization development. That's your architect. The architect takes this huge, systemic view looking at the entire building, the whole system. Their goal is to design a better overall structure, a stronger foundation, a more logical layout, the whole shebang. Change management, on the other hand, is the builder. The builder takes that blueprint from the architect and focuses on executing a specific project, like putting up one wall or installing the new plumbing, and making sure the people involved know how to adapt to it.
And this quote from Prosci's Tim Creasy just nails the builder's role, doesn't it? While the OD architect is designing this grand strategy, change management is on the ground supporting the individuals. It's about giving them the tools, listening to their concerns, and helping them adapt to that new reality the architect designed. You absolutely need both to build something that's going to last.
Okay, so if OD is the architect, how do they actually draw up the plans? It's not just random ideas on a napkin. There's a foundational, scientific process that has really been the gold standard for decades. It's called the action research model, and the two most important things to notice here are the word joint and the fact that it's a circle. It's a collaborative process, it's done with an organization, not to it, all the way from diagnosis to planning. And it's cyclical. After you take action, you evaluate the results, and that feeds right back into the beginning of the loop. It's this continuous cycle of learning and getting better. All right, so that's the theory. That's the model on paper. But what does this look like in the real world? Let's see how this stuff translates from a slide into actual transformation at some major companies. So, OD interventions usually fall into a few big categories. For our examples, we're going to look at two of the major types. You've got technostructural interventions, which are all about the internal nuts and bolts, the structure and the tech. And then you have strategic change interventions, which are more about transforming the whole organization to keep up with the outside world. First up, a classic technostructural example from Volvo. They were facing this huge people problem, sky-high turnover and absenteeism. The issue wasn't the market, it was the work itself. It was monotonous. So through an OD intervention called job enrichment, they completely redesigned the work process. They created employee councils, set up work groups, and introduced job rotation. By changing the structure of the work, they created a much more satisfying and stable place to be. Now for a strategic one. Farmers Insurance knew it had to adapt to a digital world. Their intervention? A full-on digital transformation. They built customer-focused self-service platforms and even started using drones to assess property damage. This wasn't just some small tweak, it was a fundamental shift in their entire strategy and operations to align with the changing world. And the results were massive. Huge boosts in efficiency and better service for millions. So, what can we learn from cases like these and the core principles of OD? How do you make change actually stick in any organization? Let's try and distill it all down to a few key best practices.
This right here is basically the playbook for success, and it all comes down to being deliberate. For instance, think back to Volvo. Their success really hinged on that deep employee involvement. And just like Farmers Insurance, any change has to be aligned with the big picture strategic goals. From leadership to communication to measurement, every single step has to be intentional.
So if you take one thing away today, let it be this. The most successful, the most resilient, and the most innovative organizations, they don't just stumble into success. Their evolution is never an accident. It is a deliberate process of design.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on about our own workplaces. The way your organization is changing, the way it's evolving, is it just happening by chance, or is it being guided by deliberate, thoughtful choice?